Give me more darkness, said the blind man. Give me more folly, said the fool. Give me stone silence, said the deaf man. I didn't believe Sunday school. Take it away, said the hungry man. Although I'm starving, I'll get by. Take it away, said the thirsty man. I'll find a dream before I die. I've got plenty of time to think of heaven, but right now there's too much on my mind. And I've had enough of that religious stuff. And besides, I can relate to your kind. Whoa. Leave me alone, said the lonely man.
Well, good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to Sunday School. I am your teacher for the day, Alonzo Richard Fleming Jr., and I thank you for joining me this morning. Got a little late start this morning. My youngest boy got a job, and I had to take him. That's all right. He'll be driving soon with his own license. Anyway, thank you for joining me for Sunday School. We are continuing with our series on the unraveling of a great nation, from Civil War to Donald Trump. So I appreciate you joining me. You could have joined anybody. You could have gone somewhere else and listened, but I appreciate you deciding to come here. So let me get started right now on the program, and we will get going here. Let's see. Let me turn this music down. There we go. There we go. Thank you for joining me this morning for Sunday School. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, I have some confessions to make this morning. I want to get it right out the way. You know, symbols are for enlightened minds. Signs and symbols are for enlightened minds, healed minds. Let's see, I got to get this camera right here. We're going to get some videos. Yeah. Signs and symbols are for enlightened minds. And sometimes we think that we got it and we really don't have it. And sometimes we think we don't have it and we really have it. But signs and symbols are for enlightened minds. I want to just kind of make an apology real quick here before we get started regarding the program that happened on last Wednesday. I enjoyed it, but I was somewhat feeling a little taken back by it because it occurred to me that I'm not here to outline the problem so much as I am here to offer light and be that light of the world that was spoken of by the prophets. And I felt like I went a little overboard with respect to detailing problems as though they are multiple in their nature, when I'm sitting here on Sundays telling you that there's only one problem. So even those of us who are enlightened can sometimes get off of the track. So I want to apologize to you about that program. Let me go a little further with this. I thought about this situation in the Bible where Jesus has sent his disciples out. He sent them out twice. And if you're not careful in your reading, you won't realize what actually was happening here. The first time he sent them out, he told them to take nothing with them. He said, don't take a script, don't take anything, don't take food, don't take anything. They came back after going out. They were really, really surprised at the power that they were able to exert because of the fact that he had given them power, but he told them don't take anything with them, and all of their needs were met, and they were just surprised at that fact. Then when they came back, he sent them out again. He said, this time I want you to take stuff. I want you to take food. I want you to take your purse. I want you to take money. I want you to take even a weapon. Somebody said, here's a knife. He said, that's enough. Take it. When they went out the second time, they were chased back. They had their tails between their legs when they came back the second time. So the moral of the story, remember, signs and symbols are for the enlightened mind. The moral of the story is, in the first instant, God supplied everything that they needed. They didn't have to take anything. They didn't have to do anything because God was the supplier of what they needed. And when they took nothing out, they were able to exert that power which was given to them by God with nothing of themselves in the whole situation. But the second time they went out and they took and supplied, they took a weapon. He said, it's enough. Taking food, taking scripts, taking all of this. It is enough. Take it. But the second time they came back and their tails were between their legs. What was the difference and what was the moral of the story? The difference was when you try to do it under your own logic, under your own power, under your own attempt to see and set forth an example, and you don't know all the variables in the equation that you're going to be dealing with when you speak, then if you are in your own power, then you're going to come back with your tail between your legs. But when you turn it over to the mathematician, to the physicist, to the chemist who understands it all and knows the best for everybody involved and everything involved, you exert your power. So I said that to say that the program was not supposed to be, and if this is your first time listening, I do a program on Wednesdays called Vision for Young Men. I'm changing the name back to where I'm supposed to change it to, that I was running from, Vision for Black Men. That is the name that the program was supposed, but I didn't want to deal with that. I didn't want to deal with that. So I was trying to exert other stuff in its place where God is telling me, no, there is where you deal with it. So I want to apologize again to you. My job, as Jesus put it, he said, ye are the light of the world. You are a city that's set on the hill. And if you hide the light under a bushel, and that was when I got the interpretation of that, by the way, because hiding the light under a bushel means that you really don't want people to see who you are. You don't really want people to know what you're working with because the crowd and the herd don't get it. And it's been given to you. But to put your light under a bushel simply means that you do not want to let people know what you're really working with. And so you try to hide it under different things. And that's what I was doing. I've been doing this for a long time, trying to hide it. But now we're going to get into the subject. I had to apologize to you because I had to release that in my own self. We are dealing with the subject, ladies and gentlemen, the unraveling of a great nation, from Civil War to Donald Trump. And you're going to have to just go back to some of the previous ones. If you haven't heard some of the lessons, go back to some of the previous lessons and catch up. The unraveling of a great nation. Now, I didn't originate this subject. It was originated by Minister Farrakhan back in, I believe it's 2003 or 2013, around there. And so my lesson is somewhat of an update. So let's get right on into the lesson here. Let me see here. We were coming out of the Course in Miracles, and lesson 79, ironically, is the lesson that I've been, the lesson in the Course in Miracles that I've been using as the foundation. And for those of you who got to have a scripture from the Bible, I'm going to get into some scriptures from the Bible. But the lesson in the Course in Miracles says, let me recognize the problem so it can be solved. A problem cannot be solved if you do not know what it is. Even if it is really solved already, you will still have the problem because you will not recognize that it has been solved. This is the situation of the world. The problem of separation, which is really the only problem, has already been solved. Yet the solution is not recognized because the problem is not recognized. Everyone in this world seems to have his own special problems, yet they are all the same and must be recognized as one if the one solution that solves them all is to be accepted. Who can see that a problem has been solved if he thinks the problem is something else? Do you understand that? If you think the problem is something else, you won't see the solution to the problem. Even if he is given the answer, he cannot see its relevance. That is the position in which you find yourself now. You have the answer, but you are still uncertain about what the problem is. A long series of different problems seem to confront you, and as one is settled, the next one and the next one arise. There seems to be no end to them. There is no time in which you feel completely free of problems and at peace. The temptation to regard problems as many is the temptation to keep the problem of separation unsolved. The world seems to present you with a vast number of problems, each one requiring a different answer. This perception places you in a position in which your problem solving must be inadequate and failure is inevitable. No one could solve all the problems of the world appears to hold. They seem to be on so many levels in such varying forms and with such varied content that they confront you with an impossible situation. Dismay and depression are inevitable as you regard them. Some spring up unexpectedly, just as you think you have resolved the previous ones. Others remain unsolved under a cloud of denial and rise to haunt you from time to time, only to be hidden again, but still unsolved. All this complexity is but a desperate attempt not to recognize the problem and therefore not to let it be resolved. If you could recognize that your only problem is separation, no matter what form it takes, you could accept the answer because you would see its relevance. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the Course in Miracles, and by the way, you need to grab a copy of A Course in Miracles because it is the practice of what Jesus taught. It is the daily practice of what he taught. And you will get a chance to basically understand and exert the power that Jesus exerted because you will have the practice that's necessary. But what the Course in Miracles is talking about is this idea of separation, of separate things, that there's a space between everything, that nothing is really connected to one another. And it goes so far to talk about you are separate from me by virtue of your body and my body. We appear to be separate, not realizing that we are really minds in one mind. This is why the Bible tells you to be of one mind, because it understands that you are not separate in spite of the fact that you appear to be separate. And this problem of separation, ladies and gentlemen, is so profound that it even makes a space between you and God, who you say God is everywhere at the same time. Well, then if God is everywhere at the same time, how can there be a gap, a space between you and God? Or how can there be a gap or a space between God and your brother? How can there be a space between you if God is omnipresent, meaning everywhere at the same time? If God is omnipotent, meaning having all power. If God is omniscient, meaning knows all as though it is one. How then can there be a separate one from God? How can it be? How can there be an anti-God? How can there be a devil if God is everywhere? Where would the devil be? Where could he exist if there is something beside him? There is a God beside him. Where could he or she be and exist in reality if this is the case? So the Course in Miracles asserts that the problem is the problem of separation, thinking that you can be separate. Going to your thinking now, even in that situation of your thinking, you think that you have separate thoughts, that no thought is related to another thought. Now, there is an ego system, thought system, that we have accepted and have been taught, and our thinking appears to be separate. But these are all illusions. And after we're finished with this, you're going to understand that you are one, that your mind is one, that at the reality of yourself, you are just like God, one. You are not many, though you appear to be many in your head, Brother Fleming. Listen, we're talking about a house divided. And now we're going to show you this. We're going into, some people had an issue with respect with me dealing with the Civil War. What that got to do with Jeebus? What the Civil War got to do with spirituality? Listen, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, boys and girls, dudes and dudettes, if God cannot deal with you on whatever level you are in, get another God, because this God is limited and cannot address you on your own there, brother. He cannot address your problems if you're wherever you happen to think you are. God should be able to deal with you wherever you think you are. Even if you are deluded, God should be able to deal with you in your delusion and lead you out of it. So now let's look at this. We're going to look at this scripture here in the book of Mark, and this part is called a house divided. And the scribes and Pharisees, which came down from Jerusalem, said, he has Beelzebub, and by the prince of the devils casteth he out devils. So now Jesus was casting out devils, and these devils are just thoughts that's in an individual that's fighting each other, and he seemed to be crazy. That's all it is. And the scribes, the preachers, they always want to protect their system. Brothers and sisters, they will never bring you a message that will liberate you from the system of the world, because their doctrine belongs to the world. The scribes which came down from Jerusalem said, he has Beelzebub, and by the prince of the devils casteth he out devils. And he called them unto him and said to them in parables, how can Satan cast out Satan? Now, this is Jesus dealing with the preachers. He said, come here, punk, get over here. He called them to him and he said to them in parables, in examples, how can Satan cast out Satan? I need for you all to answer that question too. How can Satan cast out Satan? And if a kingdom is divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. This is a declaration by Jesus. It is a declaration of a principle that if you are divided in your thinking, in your home, that house cannot stand. Now, is there an exception to that rule? I submit to you, no. There is no exception to the rule that a divided house cannot stand. Let's see here. Okay, make sure we got that right. Now listen. And if Satan rise up against himself and be divided, he cannot stand. So you see how he's reasoning from the small, your house, to this kingdom of this idea of Satan. If Satan be divided, he cannot stand. Just like your house cannot stand, this same rules apply to this entity that you believe in called Satan. He cannot stand, but he has an end, just like your house has an end. No man can enter into a strong man's house and spoil his goods, except he will first bind the strong man, and then he will spoil his house. Now, let me unpack that, ladies and gentlemen, because some of you going to get upset, pissed off, mad, angry, and peed-old. You cannot fix a system from the inside of that system unless you first bind the one who is holding that system in place. You cannot fix America from inside America unless you first bind the mind that is keeping America as it is intact. This is the same principle of a house divided and the inability for you to go into that house and spoil it and change it unless you first bind the one who is keeping that house intact. So this is a principle that we have to work with. We can't go around and just start talking about anything goes. We have to either accept it or deny it. And this is him laying out these principles surrounding this. So now we're talking about a divided house, and I have asserted to you that there is a difference between America and the United States. See, if you don't understand the evolutionary steps that we as humanity take, you won't understand what the God or the mind of all is doing with you and with everyone else on the planet. You won't be able to follow the path and see it. You will think that everything is separate from itself. And you won't be able to see the progression of humanity and the elevation of the mind to oneness. And you got all these stories that tell you how God don't want oneness. He don't want a one world order. He don't want humanity to be of one mind, even though that's the whole idea in the Bible. In terms of what Jesus taught, you have these stories of the Tower of Babel when they wanted to be of one mind, and this entity presenting himself as God say, hold up. We know that if they become of one mind, they're going to do what they want to do, and they will overthrow us. So let us divide them. Let us confuse them. Let us change the languages so they can't understand, and they will one another and they will go off. But God is telling you to be of one mind, be of one spirit. So who is this entity under the Tower of Babel talking about confusing you when the Bible tells you in another place that God is not the author of confusion, but of peace? How do you get both of those in the same God? God is not the author of confusion, but of peace. And you got peace when you are of one mind. When your thoughts do not fight each other, you are at peace. When there's no confusion but clarity of mind, you are at peace. God is not the author of confusion of humanity, but of peace and of clarity. But Satan, as the preachers tried to say, double talk, they say that it is God and this is anti-God. It's a Satan that is a real entity. And so Jesus used this parable because, see, they were trying to keep their world going. Just like right now. They're trying to keep this thing going. But I'm here to tell you, baby, it's over. And we pushing it into hell. We don't want it. It's got to go. It is starting with the mind. When the thoughts change and conform to peace, you must have peace breaking out. You cannot have a confused mind, a mind that's not made up, and then think you're going to get peace from that. So let's continue with our reading here. So we know this principle that we're working with, that Satan cannot cast out Satan, or his kingdom must fall of his own hands. So now going to, you hear me talk about the Declaration of Independence, and I'm telling you that everything is within you. I'm always quoting the Declaration of Independence to you, and I'm always telling you that the Declaration tells you to look within, and that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and endowed with by their creator with certain inalienable rights, and that among these inalienable rights are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And when a person is exercising these rights, governments are set up towards that end. And you know that I'm always talking about this high mind in the Declaration of Independence written by Thomas Jefferson. And you say, well, they wasn't talking about the Negroes. They wasn't talking about us. You said well when you say that. But let me show you something so that you can understand a little deeper, brother. You got to come to terms with this. What I'm speaking to, we all do, because I really don't want to be saying it. I want to do something else, but I got to do this. Listen, check this out. Check this out. This is Thomas Jefferson, who wrote over 90% of the Declaration of Independence. And he said here, and I'm paraphrasing and putting it into other pieces so that you can understand this, a decent respect of the opinions of mankind impel us to set forth the reasons for the separation. What separation? We just read in the Course in Miracles that the only problem is separation. Why is Thomas Jefferson using the word separation in here? You will see as we read that he's talking about a mind, even though it seemed to be spelled out in a body, because the king didn't want to do that. He didn't want them to have a different mind, and that's why they went to war. Two minds. But look at what was in the original Declaration of Independence, brothers and sisters. This was not made. This piece that I'm about to read did not make it to the final draft of the Declaration of Independence. Remember, you have to set forth the reasons why you want to separate from that mind. This is the elevation that I'm talking about, not the separation of the body, but the separation of the mind. And once you separate the mind from the thinking of this satanic mindset, you will understand the evolutionary process that man is going through. This was in the original, what I'm about to read here, but it didn't make it to the final draft of the Declaration of Independence so that you can understand what was really going down. They're setting forth the reasons. He has incited treasonable insurrections in our fellow subjects with the allurements of forfeiture and confiscation of our property. In other words, the king was trying to divide them with threatening some of them. I'm going to take your property if you don't get with me. I'm going to take your property if you get with them. See, trying to do just like the satanic mind was doing in Jesus. If you be the Son of God, or if you be my subject, then you got to do this. Look at the next verse. He has waged cruel war. Listen, black man. He has waged, listen, black sister. He has waged cruel war against human nature itself. violating its most sacred rights of life and liberty. Listen, in the persons of a distant people who never offended him, captivating and carrying them into slavery in another hemisphere, or to incur miserable death in their transportation there. This practical piratical warfare, the opprobrium of infidel powers, is the warfare of the Christian king of Great Britain. Did you get that? Did you understand what I just read? He's waged cruel warfare against human nature itself. This is what they charged the king of Britain with doing. Listen further. I'm going to keep on reading here. Listen further, brother. He's determined to keep an open market where men, and by the way, going back, I want you to understand that it was Thomas Jefferson who highlighted in bold Christian king. Where you think you got your doctrine from, brother? Preacher, who do you think gave this to you? He's determined to keep open market where men should be bought and sold. He has prostituted his negative for suppressing every legislative attempt to prohibit or restrain this execrable commerce. The commerce of African slaves is what he's talking about. And that this assemblage of horrors might want no fact of distinguished die. He is now exciting those very people to rise in arms among us and to purchase that liberty of which he has deprived them, and murdering the people upon whom he has also obstrued them, thus paying off former crimes committed against the liberties of one people with crimes which he urges them to commit against the lives of another. Do you understand? Do you understand what I'm saying here? Are you listening? That's what the Christian king was doing. And this was the rationale of Thomas Jefferson in the Declaration of Independence. He talks about how the king, because the British offered freedom to any slave that was in the colony. He didn't offer freedom to the slaves who were in Britain. He offered freedom to the slaves that were, he offered, Lord have mercy. He offered freedom to the slaves that were in the colonies. Where have you heard that from? The Emancipation Proclamation of Abraham Lincoln, who only offered freedom to those states, those slaves in states that were in rebellion, just like the King of Britain did the colonists. The Christian king, the Christian colonists. Once the slaves, and just like in the Civil War, in the Revolutionary War, blacks fought on both sides. There were blacks fighting for freedom on the sides of the King of Britain, and there were blacks fighting on the side of the colonists for freedom. Both of them fighting for freedom, or so they thought. Listen, brother and sister, I got to tell you. I got to tell you. I got to tell it, because if I don't tell it, I was born for this day. I was trained for this day. I got to tell it. Listen further. Now, your ancestors was fighting on both sides of the Revolutionary War, and both of them, on both sides, they fighting for freedom. The British are telling them, if y'all fight with us, we gonna free you. And the colonists are telling them, if you fight for us, we gonna free you. But what happened after the Revolutionary War? What happened? The colonists turned right around and put the black man and woman right back into slavery where he was before the British came in. When he won that Revolutionary War, you were put right back into slavery. This part of the Declaration of Independence was taken out of the Declaration, even though it is based on the same principles that the Declaration, which made the Declaration what it is. This was based on the same principles. There is no separation in truth. There's not one truth for white man and one truth for black man. Truth is one, like God is one, like you are one. And until you understand your oneness or accept your oneness, you don't even have to understand it. Just accept it. You will then see your brother. And I said that the United States is a different country than America. Because you are united in whatever state you are in, and I'm not talking about the 50 states. I'm talking about a state of mind. A state of mind, no matter what state you are in, you accept the fact of God's oneness, of your oneness. You may not have developed yet, but you accept that fact. You are the United States. And America is white supremacy. America is the white man's nation based on the flesh, of the superiority of the flesh. And they're going to have to release that. Or if they don't, because America will never be great again. It will never rule humanity again. It is over. But the United States is evolving out of it. And the United States is made of everybody. Man, woman, boy, girl, Asian, African, Chinese, whatever your state is, you are the United States. This is the evolution, and I'm bringing it. I'm the one bringing it. I know you ain't never heard this. And I know you don't think that a black man was given anything, just like they didn't think, can anything come out of Bethlehem or wherever Jesus was born? Can any good thing come out of there? They was like, you. I'm bringing it. It was given to me to bring to you. So I'm going to bring it. Let's continue with this. Listen. The colonists turned around and did the same thing. But I want you to understand what they said. Listen to this, guys. He's exciting the very people to rise in arms among us, the Africans, and to purchase that liberty. In other words, he wants the Africans to purchase the liberty of which he has deprived them. See, they understand the hypocrisy of the king here, and murdering the people upon whom he has also estrewed them, thus paying off former crimes committed against the liberties of one people with crimes which he urges them to commit against the lives of another. They saw clearly the hypocrisy. So let's keep on going. And truth is one. Now, check it out. Check it out. Put your seatbelts on, brother. Put your seatbelts on, sister. And you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. And they answered him, these are the preachers and the Jews of Jesus' day, who was always trying to kill him. They answered him, we be of Abraham's seed. We were never in bondage to any man. How sayest thou, you shall be made free? Do you see what's happening here? Jesus is talking to a people who think they are free. Listen, Jesus is talking to a people who think they are free. And what are they basing their freedoms on? Well, it's verse 33. They answered him, we be of Abraham's seed. See, they thinking that the flesh is the thing. The body is the thing. I'm a white man. I'm free because I'm a white man. And that's what they mean when they say, make America great again. Because America is now going towards the United States and want to be united in all things by coming at it from the standpoint of the mind rather than the body. So they say, we are of Abraham's seed, and we were never in bondage to any man. How are you saying you shall be made free? You see that? Verse 34. And Jesus answered them, truly, truly, brother, I say to you, whoever commits sin is the servant of sin. He's going deeper here. And the servant, see, listen, sin, Abraham, sin, listen, Abraham, sin. Notice, why did Jesus talk about sin when they started talking about Abraham's seed? Why did he go there? I'm glad you asked. They said to his thing as I'm gonna make you free with the truth. And they said, we ain't never been in bondage to any man. We of Abraham's seed. Notice they went to the body. They said, we ain't free because of this bodily manifestation. Abraham, and we are of Abraham's seed. But check it out. Let's go further here. Whosoever committed sin is the servant of sin. Jesus started talking about sin. It don't seem to fit in the conversation. Well, it doesn't fit if you don't understand the symbols and what the symbols are pointing you to. Whosoever committed sin is the servant of sin. If you think you are free because you are a white man, if you think you are free because you are a Jew and you come from Abraham, if you think you are free because you are a black man and you think that there's something in your body that makes you free, you are committing sin. You are functioning under the idea that the body is what contains your freedom. That's what you're doing when you think it's based on your body and not the mind. And when it says walk in the spirit and you shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh, this is what it's talking about, brothers and sisters. You can't base it on the physical manifestation at all. He says, whosoever committed sin, verse 34, is the servant of sin. Now listen what happens to the servant, America, who you want to be great again. The servant abideth not in the house forever. You see that? But the Son abideth ever. If you base it on your skin, on your body, you are basing it on the concept of sin. And since sin is just an idea that's on its way out, it is not real, it is not true, then you as the servant of sin will not abide in the house forever. But if you base it on the Son of God, whom you are, the Son abides or stays forever. And if the Son therefore shall make you free, you shall be free indeed. He broke it down. Can I have my foot? This is what Jesus said. Can I have my sandal back? And the Pharisees said, what sandal? The one I left in your rear end. Because I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, he put it there. If the Son, therefore, yeah, I said that. If the Son, therefore, shall make you free, you are free indeed. Now listen, what is the difference? Look at verse number 36. And there's a secret hiding there. You shall know the truth, and the truth, verse 32 first, shall make, look at the word make, you free. Now, look at verse 36. If the Son, therefore, shall make you free, you shall be free indeed. What's the difference between being made free and set free? I give it to you in a parable. Imagine a canary in a cage, and the owner of the canary don't want to own this canary anymore. So the owner opens the door and says to the canary, who understands him, you understand, and he says, you free. And he walks away. He will set free the canary. He's got a choice to come out of the cage or stay in the cage. But now imagine that the owner of the canary opens the door of the cage, reaches in, grabs the bird out, and makes him come out of literally extracts him out of the cage. He has no way to stay in the cage. When the truth comes to you, brothers and sisters, it reaches into your cage that you happen to be in. It reaches in and grabs you and drags you out, whether you kicking and screaming or not. That's being made free. And the truth is what does that to you. It doesn't set you free. It makes you free. And the only way you can be free is through the Son and knowing the truth. So now let's go on. Jesus says, listen, I know that you are Abraham's seed, but you seek to kill me because my word has no place in you. Listen, I speak that which I have seen with my Father. Listen, and you do that which you have seen with your father. Now remember, they was claiming to be Abraham's seed. Jesus started talking about sin in relationship to the seed that they claim to be of. But now, verse 44, now you seek to kill me, a man that has told you the truth, which I have heard of God. This did not Abraham. Abraham didn't do that. In other words, that's what he said. Verse 41, listen, you do the deeds of your father. Notice. Then said they to him, we be not born of fornication. We have one Father, even God. Now they starting to catch on. Oh, wait a minute. He ain't talking about no seed. He's talking about something else. Jesus said to him, if God were your father, you would love me. For I proceeded forth and came from God. Neither came I of myself, but he sent me. You see that? But I know y'all thinking he said it like I just said it, all soft and passive. No, he called them Negroes. Negro, if God were your father, you would love me because I'm from him. I didn't come on myself. He sent me. I'm exaggerating so that you will understand that he was not a passive man. Why do you not understand, verse 43, my speech? Even because you cannot hear my word. He's not talking about the words that's coming out of his mouth. He's talking about, because he said speech, the word speech. was talking about what was coming out of his mouth. Why do you not understand my speech? Even because you cannot hear my word. The word is a deeper level. You are of your father, the devil, and the lust of your father you will do. He was a murderer from the beginning and abode not in the truth. I didn't copy all of that. But let me deal with it. And I'm about ready to shut this down. Hot dog, I'm going to get finished with it in an hour. Cool. If you notice, Jesus was telling them who believed that their doctrine and they had their scriptures, because this is the story above this. If you go above this story here that I just read, they was coming to Jesus with scripture. This was the story of the woman caught in adultery. This was the story above this. You need to read it. Above this was he had healed a man on the Sabbath day. He had forgiven this lady of her sins, and he said, whoever's without sin, cast the first stone. This conversation is coming from all of that. But Jesus here is telling them that you are of your father, the devil, and the deeds of your father you will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and he abode not in the truth. Now, if you go back to some of my first lessons, when I showed you the difference between the God, your father, and the fraudulent one, the counterfeit, you will see which one that is, which father that is that Jesus is talking about. He had to speak in parables, ladies and gentlemen, because he knew they was going to kill him. And he had to speak in such a way that he would be able to get his message out to the people. And here I am in 2022 talking the same thing. But you go back to see who the father of the preachers are. Now, I want to take it on home with this, because the son, when he sets you free, you are free indeed. Or when he make you free, you are free indeed. And what does it mean to be free? I had a minister on the program, the Wednesday program, a couple of weeks ago. And one of the things he started talking about was being broken. And that he was talking about how broken he was, and he had to come to terms with that. Minister Dwayne, I'm going to have him on plenty more times. This brother is deep. And basically, he said, I don't have to hide nothing. See, when the Son makes you free, you know that you are not of the flesh, but of the Spirit. And the Spirit gives you life. But to be broken means you are broken from the trust, from the belief that your flesh is what gives you the power. Your body is what gives you the power. You have been taught by the same one who has taught these people in the Bible, these same preachers. They have an offspring from their father, and you have an offspring from your father. And each one talks to you in terms of their father. When they start talking to you, he goes on further in this scripture. Which one of you punks convinces me of sin? Yeah, he called them punks. Which one of y'all convinces me of sin? See, he know that he rose above this idea of sin, because sin enslaves you. When your mind think that God put sin in your mind or allowed sin in your mind, you are enslaved. They are of their father, the devil. And they speak to his nature. And his nature is sin. And your nature is holiness. Your nature is Christ. When they finish with you, what they do, what they tell you to do, come up and admit that you are a sinner. Don't they do that? They speaking to you from the mouth of their father. I'm going to tell you to come up and admit that you are the Son of God and that you are the Christ Spirit and that there's only one. There is no sinner for you to admit, to accept in your own mind and in your own convoluted thinking, which keep you separated and divided. Because you get into, and this is what I did in error on Wednesday, you get into he said, she said, what this person did to this person, you start analyzing that craziness, and you all mixed up in the very sin that you don't think you are. Listen, brothers and sisters, listen to me good, and I'm here to speak to you in truth. We are evolving as a people, and we are evolving as a nation, and this earth is evolving. The planet, the people on the planet itself, and the universe is also evolving. And you can keep on. You can keep on. If you want to, you can keep on listening. You are free to listen to them as they convince you of sin and double talking you and telling you that you are of Christ, but you're still a sinner. No, baby, you can only have one or the other. No man can serve two. You are either of Christ or you are of sin. That's a fact. Next week, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to conclude this. I think I'm pretty much done, actually, because you should be able to see through all these trials that's going on with the president and the nations being unraveled. And you are seeing it, and you think that they're going to fix it. No, baby. It's over. The United States is rising. America is falling. I'm Dr. Fleming. Next week, I'm going to start a series on the parables of Jesus. Unravel them for you. I was given this, guys. I really was given this. And I have to do it. And I have to tell you, I was like tripping this week because I'm like, what the heck am I doing? Anyway, I'll see you next week. God bless you.
See you when I rise. Morning will bring me your song over and over again. Shine your light on me. Wash me in resplendent love. There is no shame with you as my aim. Yesterday, today, forever the same. And I only want to spend my life with you. 'Cause there's a